Welcome to the Famous Graves podcast. I am your host, Mike Knox. Wanted to just say I'm sorry to hear that I heard about the passing of bodybuilder Doug Brignoli. He was, I believe, 63, passed away last week sometime. I think they're saying that it was COVID. He had a gym in Pasadena, actually one of the very first, I think the YMCA was the first gym that I joined, but Brignoli's was the second gym. A little bit pricey, but it was a very nice gym in kind of off one of the streets in Old Town Pasadena. And what I always liked about Doug Brignoli was he was an approachable guy. He was always there at the gym, always there to help out. All the trainers were there to help out. He called you when you signed up. I think at the time it was like $350, which was more money than I had in my bank account. But I was committed at the time, not so much anymore. And he gave me a call and wanted to know how I enjoyed my membership. And I always thought that is a good business model, and that is somebody that is probably going to go pretty far in the world of gym ownership, because I do believe it's probably hard to run a gym and keep those memberships going, because everybody, I'm sure around January, New Year's, everybody gets all fired up, and then by February 1st they've given up, because that's how I am. He also, not to taint the image of him, but I remember it closed down after a few years, and it was like turned into like a restaurant. And he had a bit of I think it got raided, because he was allegedly, I don't know if anything ever happened by it, but it was allegedly for selling steroids, which, and this is probably 20-something years ago, and so nobody really cares if you're selling steroids anymore, I don't think. Everything's legal. And so then I think he just basically lost everything, and then when social media came around, then he started to, he was a lecturer, wrote books, stuff like that, and I, of course, tried to contact him on social media, but he wasn't as a fun-loving guy as I remember I don't know if he actually got arrested when his place was raided, but it was a big scandal in Pasadena, and so rest in peace there, buddy. I always liked you. I thought you were a good guy. So I don't actually believe it, but I guess that Elon Musk took over Twitter, and then they were showing the people that he fired today, but the people that he fired were walked out with a box, and one guy's holding up a book with Michelle Obama's autobiography, and I was just thinking, if you're fired from your job, is that really the first thing that you're going to take, and you get the standard cardboard box? Was that a going away gift for the book? And then I think the news could do a little better of a job all the time. This is definitely one specifically that they could, because they're just interviewing these same two guys, and then the one guy is I've got to go home to my wife and husband, which I guess in 2002 everybody's got a wife and a husband now. It's just horrible news reporting on something that I had never followed Elon Musk before, but I looked him up on Twitter, and he had 111 million people following him, so I don't think he's going to reply to any of my tweets. So I will just, I won't bother him like everybody else. Just rants from people, and it's always, I have a little chuckle, because it's always, there's always some woman, it's usually an older lady, and somebody will report a crime or something, and then her thing will be, what's happened to her city, with an exclamation mark. And never fails that lady is always there. But I wanted to read one of them, which is, because I don't have anything left in my life. I've got this, is it called the Neighborhood Next Door app? I call it the Neighborhood app, but that one in the Ring, where it's showing everybody captured on camera. And I like that. I just like all those ones to just basically keep up if there's any crime. If the closer that the crime is creeping towards my house, that's what interests me. But so this lady, and she says, and so it begins. I was driving through McDonald's drive-thru, and as I came around the curve, there was a homeless man sitting against the McDonald's wall within the drive-thru, and he had a plastic baggie with white powder blatantly out in the open, getting ready to do who knows what. I know in other areas people use drugs in the street without fear of getting caught. Is this where it is now? What has happened to our city? So there's where I get a good chuckle out of. According to a study, And I like these little blurbs that I get there on Instagram, these little studies. So according to a study, strict parents can turn their kids into more efficient liars because children who are afraid to tell them the truth learn more deceptive behaviors to avoid getting in trouble. Now I bring this up because I do believe that the baby boomers are the ones that ruined everything and continue to ruin everything. You look at everybody in politics, they're like in their past their 80s. And they're the same people that were like, don't trust the government. And now they are the government. And so my generation was like that last generation where it was, yeah, you had to lie to your parents because your parents didn't want to hear it. It was like your dad's watching football, he's drinking a beer, and you're like, hey, Dad, my hand's bleeding. And he's like, shut up. Wait for the commercial to bleed. Go tell your mom to bandage you up. Because parents didn't really care. It was a very hands-off society. Plus, everybody was drinking. Everybody's beating. You were just afraid of getting a beating. And, you could get a beating from anybody's parents. And all that's, like, unheard of. And so what that did is it made that generation, like, basically hustle more. And you had to figure things out on your own. And so, the younger that you were, you basically just got on your bike and rode off into the sunrise. And you came back at the sunset. And you never really talked about anything, and nor did my parents specifically didn't want to hear anything. I remember the next door neighbor, of course this is before the Ring or Nextdoor app, but like the neighbor's house got like it was like a home invasion where they knocked on the door and said, "Could I use your phone?" Because my car broke down, and then like two other guys came and like, strong-armed them in the house and, like, tied them up and robbed them. And I, like, asked my mom about it because I was like, oh, my God, it's, like, right next door to our house. And my mom's just like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And just, went on, smoking cigarettes. She didn't smoke at that time, I don't think. But that's what I imagined that she was doing, smoking cigarettes. So she wasn't a big talker. And when things like that freaked me out. But then I get on the other side. I'm going to give her credit here. I guess on the other hand that... then if she wasn't thinking about our next door neighbor's home getting invaded, and by the way, they didn't do a very good job of locking the front door or the back door. The back door was always unlocked, and of course the front door was always unlocked because I didn't have a key to the house, and I would come home to you'd walk through the front door. That was pretty normal for everybody. Pelosi's home in San Francisco, I guess some crazy guy, and they're really not spinning it, but they're talking about this guy's crazy. I guess he's in a naked group or like a naked cult or something like that. And I gotta tell you, first of all, I don't like to join any groups or clubs or anything like that. But a naked club, I mean, come on, you've got to be crazy to be naked in front of strangers that you don't really even know. And then you're posting that, I'm sure there's a naked Instagram out there or something like that. I will be no part of that. But anyway, so this guy who's like, loves being naked, breaks in, and he's like, where's Nancy? Nancy's husband. And it seems, again, bad reporting, but it seems like Nancy's husband woke up there with a hammer, and then the naked crazy guy, I don't know if he was naked at the time, then grabs the hammer to use it on him and assaults him. And then him and Nancy, basically all three of them, went to the hospital, and that guy got arrested. And, the news did some, like reporting about how this guy follows some other lady that's naked and really went down the rabbit hole. I really didn't understand the article, and that's the whole reason that I brought it up. But I was thinking, looking at, they're like, the news has always got to tell you how much Nancy Pelosi's house is. And it's like this, $2 million house, but there's no fence around it. I mean, the garage is like right there on the sidewalk. And I don't know if you've been to San Francisco lately, but it's a war zone. And it doesn't look like their house is very fortified. And it's a $5 million house in San Francisco. Maybe invest in a fence. Jeez, spend all that money on all your stock trading. Anywho, I've got to go give a shout out here to the New Year's Eve. New Fear's Eve is a movie, and they've actually got they're trying to do a fundraiser there, and for $250, the New Fear's Eve, you can be in a scene with Dave Sheridan, the actor. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. But if you want to be in a scary movie with the actor, definitely just send me a little note, and I will send you the link to it. I probably won't, but I'm just saying that I will. I was watching this. I like UK Mail because they always want to throw out, especially UK Mail. wants to always throw out like these people that are doing these side hustles and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they've got this one lady on there, and she's like talking about how I made $450,000 in 4 years reselling items on Amazon. And the thing that always gets me about this is, okay, and I'm not good in math, but I'm good in the amount of taxes that are taken from me by the government. And if you're on any of these sites selling anything, you're automatically red flagged by the IRS if it's over $600. And so say it's $400. Well, automatically you've got 50% taken out for taxes, right? So you're down to $200,000. And then if this is over an amount of 4 years, which if you read more into the article, it's more like 6. Really, she's only making $35,000 to $37,000 reselling stuff. And I've talked about this before, where I collect stuff. I have tons of junk, and I started to get rid of some of this year because I had about 10 years ago on eBay. I'd had a good time on eBay selling stuff. It was fun. People were nice, and people have just probably because of COVID just gotten absolutely horrible. And so I just stopped selling stuff, and I still have stuff that I want to sell, but the people were just so annoying and so miserable on there. That's the other thing is you've got to sell those items, especially like reselling them on Amazon. And then now, because the economy is so wonderful, people want to argue with you about the price and about the shipping. And so not only are you, whatever you're bragging about making this huge amount of money every year, nobody ever talks about the taxes that are taken out of that. The time to me is the killer, because then you're going to go wait in line, whether it's at UPS, if it's at the post office, which they're just horrible and they're just so overpriced at the United States Post Office. You got to get the boxes, you've got to get your little, peanut particles, whatever they're called. You've got to get your bubble wrap. You've got to stop and push on the bubble wrap and jump up and down on the bubble wrap, because that's very addicting. And then, going to the Office Depot and dealing with that. And don't get me started on Office Depot, because it really is just like it's another dimension of Walmart, really, what it is. It's even more like sterile and boring, and the people there, I think they might be robots that work there, and that stuff is overpriced, but I would rather go there, because then I just feel like when I'm at Walmart, I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking, and I don't ever get anywhere. And then the Walmart near me, I finally got it down, like, hey, here's the garden section. Over here to the left, over here to the right is where they sell fishing stuff, workout stuff. Here's where, they sell some binders and stuff like that, paper. Nope, it's all rearranged now. I'm walking. I felt like I was walking on a collegiate track, and I could never find what I was looking for, which was I was looking for a pencil sharpener. I believe I was, yes. And couldn't find it. I just gave up. I aborted the mission because they need something like at the airport. What's that walking track? Is it like a Skyway or something? They need that at Walmart. Walmarts are too large. I don't think that Sam Walton ever thought that I needed something that was like 7 football fields long. Also, in the news, they are saying that charges are imminent for the Santa Fe prosecutor says this about Alec Baldwin, who shot the cinematographer Helena Hutchins last October 21st. So think about that. It's been a year. He hasn't been charged with anything. If it were anybody else, do you think that would happen? I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm not going to. I understand you're innocent until proven guilty. It's kind of a slam dunk there for Santa Fe. But who am I to say? I'm just a guy in a podcast booth. Also in the news, that's where we are now. We can't. I know that we watch the news and we go, oh, I believe them 100%, and they'd love to just throw that curveball at you. And so the headline of this news was, "Man bursts into flames after a cop tasers him." And it was like, oh my God, watch this very, 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 very long video of this guy on a motorcycle that takes off from the police, and then the police are chasing him, and he tasers them, and guess what? The guy's wearing a backpack with a bottle of gasoline in it, so obviously he's going to burst into flames when he's shot with a taser. But the news doesn't really want to say that, because they want to give you the little clickbait about, oh, the guy just blew up for no reason. Yeah, thanks news again for that one. I do find it fascinating that the man burst into flames. I hope that he's okay. His name is Christopher in Arkansas. And I'm sure that cop will think twice about tasering somebody with a backpack full of gasoline. And I know what you're thinking. Why does a guy have a backpack full of gasoline? And I've got to give it to Christopher. You're on a motorcycle. He was evading police. He was probably going to think he's not going to pull over. He's got enough gas to go to Las Vegas. I think it's smart. I had a motorcycle at one time. It wasn't anything fancy. Don't go crazy on me. It was just a Honda 450 Nighthawk. But that thing saved me money on gas and got me pretty much everywhere. And I always thought about having like a container of extra gas with me. So Christopher, you were before your time, I do believe. And in the news also, a New York ex-cop turned demonologist. I did not know there was a demonologist. Describes his harrowing moments. He drove out a man's demon that tried to kill him in a haunted Maine home after he bought an antique dresser with old tarot cards inside. Now, I would more believe this story if it wasn't an ex-NYPD cop. Because for some reason, the ex-NYPD cop and the ex-LAPD cops, they only go into 2 lines of work after retirement. That's private investigator or some sort of demon hunting person. And then the news puts them up there like they have all these great qualifications for demon hunting. And then you got to throw in also Maine, because that's where Stephen King lives. And I would love to live in Maine because you can buy a house on a nice lake there for a couple $100,000. And somebody pointed out to me that, yes, it's very cheap to live in Maine because there's not a lot of people that have jobs in Maine. And so there are just a lot of people that are not doing much in Maine. And I've got to tell you, I'm okay with that. I, again, just want to live on a lake, maybe live near Stephen King, and Stephen King can come outside with some coffee and scream at me in the morning. I don't require a lot in life, is what I'm trying to say. A Los Angeles real estate developer, I think I might have talked about this before, but basically he killed himself in Malibu last week. He was looking at 3 years in was he looking at 3 years in prison? 3 years in prison for his he paid a varsity blues college admissions, part of the college admissions scam. He paid over $300,000 to get his 2 of his kids into college. And again, it's just my personal opinion. These colleges have free reign to do whatever they want. When they don't have a football program, they're always looking. The football programs basically fund the entire school for the next 20 years. And when something like Penn State happens where they've got to pay all these lawsuits out because little Jerry wanted to be with some kids down in the basement, it kills the whole school. And so the school then looks around for other ways to get money. And they're always getting grants, they're getting state funding, they're getting county funding, city funding. So don't ever feel sorry for any of these schools. Feel sorry for the parents that are just trying to get their kids into a college of their choice, because that's what all of these high schools are telling all these kids, that, and all the parents also. So put it into the perspective of these parents that, and I'm not saying this is a great idea. I'm just saying that I went through this with my family, where all the other families were like obsessed, and that's all they ever asked was like, "Where are you gonna go to college, Marcus?" And I'm like, I guess city college. I don't know. I'm not smart. I'm not gonna go anywhere. And then it was like looking down on me, even though their kids were high on crack going to Yale. So for a lot of these parents, that stigma is very true and very real. I know we're supposed to ignore it, but that's where you had a lot of these famous people were just trying to get their kids into college. And then you've got, some of these colleges, it's ridiculous how much you're paying $60,000 a year for a gender study degree. And something's got to break. But again, none of these colleges are being held accountable for anything. Again, they get away with everything, the parents, and here's this guy, sadly, that kills himself over it because he doesn't want to go to prison. And I get that. Who wants to go to prison? Nobody does. But I don't think that suicide is the answer, and that is a very sad story. The Powerball was up to $800 million this week, and there's this little app that I was using, and I think it's called Milo or Mido or something with a little dog on it. That thing barely ever works. I don't understand, again, why the lottery people can't step up to the plate and make it easier for me to not have to leave my house and go to the 7-Eleven down the street, which is filthy, by the way, inside and out. I think it's that 7-Elevens are required to be filthy and never clean anything. It's just like dirt, dust, and grime everywhere. It's like, spray down the parking lot there, guy. To go there and then stand in line to buy a piece of paper that I know is going to lose money, and then somebody in Michigan is going to win that Powerball. So if we could cut all that out and just have an app that actually works, because I contact these app people and they're like, it works. I don't see what's wrong. It works. No, it doesn't work. It sucks. And I don't know why you have a little dog as your little icon. Have like a little lottery ticket guy with some arms and some legs. I'm not in marketing. I'm not in advertising. I don't know. That's just a suggestion. But get your app to work. Also, this last week, some activists, I'm not quite sure what they're protesting, but they keep, throwing like cans of soup on very expensive paintings, and then crazy gluing their hands together. And I think they're trying to stop oil production, which, to me, this is not. I don't understand it. I understand that you're trying to get your point across, but you go to a museum, which has nothing to do with oil. You go in front of a canvas, which has nothing to do with that. Then you film yourself crazy gluing your hands to a wall, which has nothing to do with oil. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but why aren't you protesting like at an oil refinery? We got one, I don't know if you know this, but Los Angeles used to be covered with oil derricks. It's very oil rich. There's actually in the state of California, there's many, many oil places. Don't know why you, unless you don't have a visa to leave London, because I know that's one of the places, but I think I could really, again, I'm not in marketing, but I think that I could get your little group there together. I'm not going to. I'm just saying that I think I could help out your group there, because somebody's directing you into the wrong places. Again, you might as well be protesting at a 7-Eleven, because all you're doing is damaging art, which I'm sure they have some security on there that's like a layer, so you're really not doing anything at all to damage anything. And the news is like spinning it like you've damaged this, Picasso. But I'm sure that nothing has happened except you've now ruined the wallpaper at the Museum of Modern Art because you glued your hand to it. I would like to see what it takes to peel your hand off there, though. What exactly that they do, because they're not quite showing that. The virtual insanity, as they say, of Facebook's slashing 17,000 jobs, 20% of its workforce because of the metaverse. If you don't know what metaverse is, which I don't know who does, because I don't really know anybody that is in the metaverse. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's cool. I think that what was that movie with Christopher Walken where it was like Brain Wave or something, where it's the same thing where they're doing virtual reality. I think those Oculus glasses, it's like a helmet, are too big. It was just a set of glasses, then it would be really cool. And that's my advice to Facebook there. Get those goggles down to like very lightweight sunglasses, kind of like a Google Glass, and then I think it'll be a go. And then another thing I think is weird about the meta universe is it's just these avatars that are waist up, have like a full, I don't know, it's weird. But I think that if you could do a metaverse where you own your property, you're inviting your friends over, it's kind of like a Zoom but in a virtual, I think that could work. I just think it's too early. It's too. Usually, you've got to fund these things, and then people get the idea like 20 years later. So, I do think it's a good idea. I just don't think that people are into it right now because we're still trying to figure out our smartphones. And I got to tell you, if you've got AT&T, I feel like every cellular place is horrible, but I've got AT&T and I can't even get reception in my own living room right next to the Wi-Fi router there. And again, I don't know anything about computer or anything like that. It's just I do think if I'm paying this much amount of money, I should my iPhone should work in my right next to the router. Call me crazy, I guess. Also, a woman who claimed she was arrested for being too good looking after she was cuffed for skipping out on her Chili's Las Vegas tab is now facing a murder charge for stabbing her mother to death. And there's a bunch of pictures of her, and I remember this where she was like, I'm too hot, that's why they arrested me, and then everybody's supposed to look at her Instagram and be like, maybe you are, maybe you're not, yeah, you are, I don't know. But really, I think this is where we're at in our society, is that if you're skipping out on your bill at a Chili's, right? It's a crime. I know not so much that they're arresting people anymore, but to me, it's more of a moral crime. You went into Chili's, you chose to go there, you should pay for it. They've got very good food. And, but then your excuse is, I was just arrested because I'm too good looking. And I think that that's our society, is that you're caught, you're told this is what you have done, and then we seem to reply with this obscure response. You just got caught stealing. No, I didn't have any shoelaces. So none of that ever makes any sense. But then again, you've just killed your mom, which is bizarre. But I can't say, hey, didn't we see that coming? And I know that I said that I went to Florida the other day, or other month. And that this was my thing, is that Florida was great. It was just more like everybody is hanging out in their boats. You could kind of see a couple of people might have been, just got out of jail. It's a drinking and boating culture. So it was more like, it was like I was in Fort Lauderdale, and then I go to find out that Fort Lauderdale was supposed to be like a high crime area. It was very clean. It was no graffiti, and I liked it a lot. I just looking around at homes and stuff like that, which is something that I like to do. It didn't seem like there was a deal, and now suddenly this huge market. They're saying that because of the mortgage interest rates, everything's jumped so high, and it really has. I mean, I haven't seen. I think I bought my first home in '98, so they were at 6% then. I refinanced like a year ago at 3%, and now we're up at 7%. The Day, which is unmarked, and that is actor Phillip Seymour Hoffman. I always liked him. He played a lot of great characters. He was born July 23rd, 1967. I believe he played a lot of different distinctive roles, and he's kind of just had that face where he could never be typecast, I always thought. But he was born in Fairport, New York. His mother was a family court judge. His father worked for Xerox. Is Xerox even around anymore? I've got a side thing on Xerox there. Xerox could have been the Apple or the Macintosh, and they really dropped the ball. And I wonder if that CEO is ever like, man, I dropped the ball on that one. But anyways, he has got a brother, Gordy, and Gordy runs Gordy's also an actor, and I know that he does a screenplay contest called Blue Cat. Also had two sisters. His ancestry included German and Irish. Hoffman was baptized Catholic and attended Mass as a child, but he did not have a heavily religious upbringing, as a lot of us Catholics didn't. His parents divorced when he was 9, and the children were raised primarily by their mother. His childhood passion was sports, particularly wrestling and baseball. But at the age of 12, he saw a stage production of Arthur Miller's All My Sons and was transfixed by acting. He recalled in 2008, I was permanently changed by that experience. It was like a miracle to me. Developed a love for theater and proceeded to attend regularly with his mother. He remembered that the production of Quilters and Alms for the Middle Class with a teenage Robert Downey Jr. were the episode for Showtime series Happy-ish, in which he played the lead role of an advertising exec, but plans for a full season were put on hold following his death. The role was later passed on to Steve Coogan. Had no idea. Didn't know that there was supposed to be in a show. He rarely mentioned his personal life in interviews, stating in 2012 that he would rather not because my family doesn't have any choice. If I talk about them in the press, I'm giving them no choice, so I choose not to talk about them. For 14 years, he was in a relationship with a costume designer, Mimi O'Donnell, whom he had met in 1999 when they were both working on In Arabia, We'd All Be Kings. They lived in New York and had a son, Cooper, and 2 daughters. While some reports stated Hoffman and O'Donnell separated in the fall of 2013, O'Donnell later said she and Hoffman were both committed to their relationship, but he had moved out and their longtime residence to a nearby apartment to protect the children from the effects of his relapse to substance abuse. Hoffman was also discreet about his religious and political views, but it is known that he voted for the Green Party and Ralph Nader in 2000 election. This is what I don't like about our society these days, is when it's basically the death of an actor is, well, who did he vote for? What were his political views? And I think in that case, who cares? I'm glad. I respect him for being a private guy, and especially leaving his family out of the media. He felt that keeping his personal life private was beneficial to his career. I agree with that. The less you know about me, the more interesting it will be to watch me when you do. That is very... Look at that. That is a mark of a true actor. 2006 interview with 60 Minutes, he revealed that he had engaged in drug and alcohol misuse during his time at New York University, saying he had used anything I could get my hands on. I liked it all. Following his graduation from 1989, he entered a drug rehab at the age of 22 and remained sober for 23 years. However, he relapsed in 2013 and admitted himself to drug rehab for 10 days in May of 2013. And again, I didn't know any of that. Very interesting. I, of course, just want to name one of his movies that I thought he was great in was The Talented Mr. Ripley. Probably one of my favorite movies with him in it. On February 2nd, 2014, Hoffman was found dead in the bathroom of his Manhattan apartment by his friend, the playwright and screenwriter David Barr Katz. He was 46 years old. Although a friend stated that Hoffman's drug use was under control at the time, detectives searching the apartment found heroin and prescription medication at the scene and revealed that he had a syringe in his arm. Hoffman's death was officially ruled an accident caused by a mixed drug intoxication of cocaine, benzies, and amphetamines. The New York Times said Hoffman had taken all the substances at the same time, or whether any of the substances had remained in his system were unclear. A funeral mass was held at Loyola Church in Manhattan, February 7, 2014. It was attended by many celebrities, as it should have been. His death was lamented by fans and the film industry and was described by several commentators as a considerable loss to the profession. Totally agree. I think he had a huge career after that. And... he's just somebody that's really missed because he was such a great actor and somebody that I think that everybody did identify with quite a bit because he could play any part and he was basically just like that regular guy that everybody really liked. Like, subscribe, tell me who else you want me to see. Check out Famous Graves on TikTok. I'd like to just point out I did the grave of Andrew Conan. He's buried at Hollywood Forever, and that thing shot up to like 300,000 views or something like that. I usually get like 500 views, and this one for some reason. And then I was losing all these viewers, and then I started getting hundreds more. So if you're going to ask me the algorithm of TikTok, I have no clue. I'm just happy that people are enjoying the famous graves as much as I enjoy going out there and visiting famous graves sites, and a lot of famous people don't have them. So again, it's just to honor them and to talk about them and to remember their names because they contributed quite a bit to society.